Today, I went through and ranked all 194 episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on a tier list. This video took me a while, so if you enjoy it, please consider dropping a like or maybe even a subscription. Obvious spoilers for parts 1 through 6 of JoJo, so with that, let's begin with part 1, Phantom Blood. The first episode of JoJo's is pretty good. It all starts with this guy, Dario Brando, tricking this guy, George Joestar, into thinking he saved his life, leaving the Joestars in debt with the Brandos. Anyways, Dario has a son named Dio, and Dario is not a great father. This is Jonathan Joestar, son of George Joestar, and he's got a crush on this girl, Irina. The first scene where Irina is introduced, Jonathan tries to fight some guys who are bullying her, but he fails. Dario tells Dio that he's gonna die and tells Dio to go to the Joestar mansion. Oh yeah, the Joestars are like really rich, by the way. So Dario died, and Dio heads to the Joestar mansion. Dio meets Jonathan and kicks his dog! Guys, I don't think Dio's a very good guy. A lot of bad things happen to dogs in this show. George welcomes Dio into the mansion as his own adoptive son. Jonathan and Dio don't really like each other. Actually, Dio's whole goal is to ruin Jonathan's life. And so far, he looks to be succeeding. Partly due to the fact that Dio's just better than Jonathan in everything. His grades, his table manners, fighting. Man, after a long time of Jonathan just kind of getting beat up the whole episode, I feel bad for him. After a while, Jonathan ends up actually dating Irina. Very cute. But Dio doesn't want Jonathan to be happy, so he kisses Irina.
You thought your first kiss would be Jojo, but it was I, Dio!
But then Irina washes her mouth out with dirty water because Dio sucks. Blood! Get it?
Shoot that maniac!
Jonathan and Dio get into a big fight because Johnny is real angry at Dio for kissing Irina. Then the fight is broken up by George after Dio pulls a knife. Rest in peace, Danny. That was a great first episode. I think it's one of my favorite first episodes of any show ever. The pacing is great, if a little fast, and the characters are introduced in a very good way. Even though the plot is very simple, I think this first episode at least is a great introduction to the show and the part. It also uses Roundabout as its ending song, so yeah. This episode is going to be going in A tier for me, as I think it's arguably a perfect basis to rank every other episode in the show. Episode 2 does not directly follow up the first one. This episode introduces Jack the Ripper, but we don't see his face yet. Part 1 has a lot of forgettable villains. Jonathan and Dio are playing rugby, and they're pretty good. For a bit, it actually looks like Jonathan and Dio are getting along. But Jonathan still doesn't clearly fully trust Dio, unforgiving of his actions as a child. And as for Dio...
Should I? Friendship, huh? The truth is, I despise this grinning imbecile.
You rescued me from calamity.
That's the wonder.
Jonathan has been studying the stone mask. Oh wait, I don't think I explained this. Basically, when blood touches it, these claws pop out, and if it gets put on someone's face, they turn into a vampire. Whilst Jonathan is studying the stone mask, he figured out Dio just kinda wants the Joestar fortune, and has been poisoning Jonathan's father to obtain it. And Jonathan's a little mad about that. So Jonathan heads over to London to find some stuff about this medicine that Dio's giving his father. The medicine is the poison, by the way. The medicine is the poison. Oh yeah, and Dio remembers the stone mask or something. Jonathan ends up on this street called Ogre Street where he gets jumped. The main one is Speedwagon, who slices Jonathan's arms with his hat. That's also a blade. Or something. Then Speedwagon gets smacked. Now Speedwagon respects him for some reason. Yeah. Cut to Dio, who's drinking alcohol before he bumps into some mean dudes. Before Dio gently incapacitates one. Then he turns the other dude into a vampire. Then Dio gets smacked. Then the vampire guy dies due to conveniently timed sun. Jonathan and Dio return home and Jonathan's there and Jonathan has proof that Dio has been poisoning his father. Then the episode ends. Overall, I really like episode 2. It's definitely not one of my favorites, but none in this part really are. But I think it's still pretty good, so I'm going to be putting it in B tier.
We're on easy street, and it feels so sweet.
This episode actually begins where the last one left off, with Jonathan telling Dio that he has proof that Dio has been poisoning his father. Dio tries to trick Jonathan by telling him that he's going to turn himself in, explaining how he's
The lowest of the low!
Oh hey, it's Speedwagon. He says that he can clearly see through Dio's perception and that he's lying, and knows that he's evil just from his smell, saying he's pure evil. And then it's revealed George heard everything. Everything comes crashing down on Dio. Dio asks that Jonathan put the cuffs on him, but it was a facade. And Dio kills George by stabbing him, using his blood to activate the stone mask. He puts the mask on and the cops in the room shoot him.
Shoot that maniac!
George dies in Jonathan's arms. Very sad. Oh yeah, Dio is very much alive because obviously. Then he burns the Joestar mansion to the ground.
Get back, Jojo!
Speedwagon saves Jojo, then the episode ends. I like this episode. It's very cool. I'm just gonna put it in B tier above episode 2 though. Ignore what I just said. I'm never doing that for the rest of the video, like putting something above it. I'm just gonna put it in the tier.
Sometimes I fantasize about Misato coming home drunk and beating me until I feel numb.
Hey Speedwagon. Speedwagon sees a light in a room where Jonathan's wounds are being tended to by Irina. Oh hey Irina. Jonathan gains consciousness and sees Irina and stuff, and they still love each other and stuff, but Jonathan's arm is broken and he somehow catches Irina when she faints. Don't question it. Y'all remember Jack the Ripper from episode 2? Dio's like recruiting people to join him and hypnotizes Jack into joining him so he can kill Jonathan. We meet this guy, Baron Zeppeli. He has this ability called Hamon. It's like the harnessed energy of the sun that's controlled through your breathing, and it can slow aging sometimes and heal people. Zeppeli heals Jonathan and his weird dumb arm, and arm feel better ever then. And then Zeppeli punches a frog. Oh hey Dio. He kills this woman to be pretty again. Zeppeli explains how he's actually the one who unearthed the stone mask, so technically this is all his fault, and oh my god, his whole crew was killed by a vampire. But he survived because of conveniently timed sun. Also, Hamon is like a direct counter to vampirism, and also Jonathan learns Hamon. Jojo, Zeppeli, and Speedwagon finally begin their actual bizarre adventure to stop Dio. They get in a carriage where it suddenly stops as they hear a thud. They all exit the carriage to see 2 of the horses that were pulling the carriage decapitated. Then Jack the Ripper comes out of the neck of one because he was hiding in the horse. Anyways, Zeppeli begins beating him before Jack runs away. Jojo follows after Zeppeli gives him a glass of wine, telling him not to spill a drop while fighting Jack the Ripper. If he spills a drop, Zeppeli is gonna leave. Jonathan goes after Jack the Ripper, ending up in a labyrinth. He throws a torch away, and Jack the Ripper attacks.
Ento Hormone Overdrive!
And the episode ends. I like this episode. It's where part 1 really kicks off the adventure part, and it's really good, introducing my favorite character of this part, Zeppeli. Anyways, I'm gonna be putting this episode on A tier.
Come on.
This episode begins by introducing us to a land called Windknight's Lot, a former medieval training ground for knights. They end up in Windknight's Lot. Who could have guessed? Meeting this kid named Poco who steals their bag that has all their money in it. Anyways, Zeppeli walks on water and Jojo hits a mountain. Oh hey Dio. Zeppeli finds out vampires and zombies and stuff can't function in the sunlight. And also that Dio has been healed since the burning of the Joestar mansion, if that wasn't obvious enough if you looked at him for 5 seconds. Zeppeli hits a nasty pose and oh my god!
Useless!
Dio's like way too strong and he has ice powers, I guess. But yeah, Dio breaks Zeppeli's leg. RIP. Dio summons Tarkus and Bruford. My bad. Bluford! Tarkus and Bruford are knights who had fought to free Mary Stuart, some queen or whatever, it's not super important, but she was killed after the country had turned against her. Unknowing of her death, Bruford and Tarkus had turned themselves in for her and had been executed. They were really strong, so Dio revived them and recruited them. Jonathan begins his underwater fight with Bruford, and oh, the episode's over. Overall, this episode is a good introduction to Bruce, as well as Poco. Even if they're not the most important characters, this is still a decent episode that I can't really hate. Can't really hate any part 1 or part 2 episodes, something that will be very consistent for later parts. Part 3, I'm gonna be putting this episode in the B tier. It's not bad, but nowhere near my favorite. This episode begins with continuing the underwater fight with Jonathan and Bluford. I actually called it! Jonathan quickly punches Bruford right out of the water. Oh, and yeah, Bluford is carrying this sword called Pluck. It's important, I promise. Oh, and Bluford can also use his hair as a weapon. I wonder if we'll ever see that again. Speedwagon and Zeppeli can't help Jonathan because they're too busy with Tarkus. Bruford attempts to slice Jonathan with Pluck, but Jojo quickly pulls the "My heart resonates" and so now Bruford can feel pain thanks to Jonathan's hormone, and Bruford dies after Jonathan doesn't dodge his attack because he could sense something good in Bruford or something. Part 1 is great. Tarkus appears and attempts to attack Jonathan, destroying Bluford's now empty armor, and Tarkus begins fighting Jojo, Speedwagon, and Zeppeli. Oh hey Poco. Then they start flying! Tarkus jumps off a cliff to try and get to the group, but crashes into this castle thing that's going to be the main set piece for like 2 episodes. But Tarkus survives because plot. Jonathan brings Poco inside the castle and the fight actually begins. Jonathan gets chained up in a room where the knights used to train to kill. Tarkus chains himself to Jonathan, and Zeppeli and the others can't get into the room because the door is locked and Zeppeli can't use hormone to break through. Jonathan breaks another bone in his arm and he can't use hormone because he's being choked by the thing around his neck. And Poco pees himself. Poco actually does something useful and goes through his window thing to help Zeppeli and Speedwagon get into the building after a flashback to Poco getting bullied, and his sister saved them and then slapped him.
I know that hurt, but you're still in one piece.
Anyways, Poco helps Zeppeli and Speedwagon in, but accidentally hurts himself. Speedwagon helps Poco and Zeppeli goes to help Jonathan, prepared to sacrifice his life. And that's where the episode ends. I'd say this is one of the most action-packed episodes so far. Personally, I feel like the Bruford fight could have been a bit longer, but it's fine. I'm going to be putting this episode in the B tier. This episode begins with showing us some of Zeppeli's hormone training when he was younger, and with his master, Tonpetty. Tonpetty predicts Poco helping them in, which could lead to Zeppeli's death according to the prediction, which would explain why he was so prepared to sacrifice himself in the last episode. And so Zeppeli begins to approach Jonathan and Tarkus. Hey, it's editing, Eggman, Egg, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing Zeppeli's name wrong. It might be Zeppeli. Or I say Zeppeli like this whole video, so. Tarkus chains Zeppeli by his waist, in turn choking Jonathan, making it so neither of them can use their hormone due to not being able to breathe. And then Zeppeli is cut in half by Tarkus using the chain. Zeppeli uses the last of his energy, despite being cut in half, somehow still being alive. He gives Jonathan the last of his hormone, giving Jonathan the strength to beat Tarkus. Zeppeli dies with honor, like a lot of honor. Like they give him this whole panning up to see his face for the last time kind of honor. Also, he has no grandchildren, or children, or any children, but yeah, we'll see about that. Oh, hey, Dio. Anyways, Dio turns this woman into a zombie and makes her eat her own baby. Why? Cut back to Jonathan, Speedwagon, and Poco continuing to make their way to Dio. Speedwagon explains how apparently a bunch of zombies will appear or something, and they all see this guy, but yeah, he's totally a zombie. But Jonathan makes quick work of him because he's really awesome and really cool. And this guy comes up. His name is Dyer or something, but I don't know. He's not very important. And all that just happens. And all that attempt to fight Jonathan, blah, blah, blah. He's friends with Zeppeli. Oh, and here's this guy Straitzo, and he's a little bit more important, and he's also friends with Zeppeli. Well, they were friends with Zeppeli. The episode begins with Tom Petty arriving and saying that they know Dio is strong, but we already know that. Oh, and Dio has Poco's sister. This episode is very middle of the road for me. Tarkus's death, in my opinion, should have just been done in a bit of a cooler way, but they did need time for Zeppeli's death, so I can understand it. This is my personal least favorite episode in the part, even though it does have moments like Jonathan crying or Zeppeli's death, but I think this is the weakest episode in the whole part. Not just because I have bias that they killed my favorite character, I swear! Anyways, this episode is going in B tier. Try and guess what this episode's about from the title. This episode begins with Poco returning home. His father is abusive. What a loser. Poco's father explains how his sister is looking out for him. Oh, hey, Dio. I guess there's dogs with human heads now. But I don't think Dio really likes dogs very much. Anyways, Poco's sister slaps Dio, calling him a devil, and part 2, Jason Voorhees looking dude, tries to do stuff. Oh. But hey, Jonathan, woo! Part 2, Jason Voorhees bites Jonathan with snakes that are under his mask for some reason. But Jonathan beats Part 2 Jason Voorhees up pretty easily, and Poco reunites with his sister as Jonathan goes to fight Dio and battle him. What's up, brother? If it isn't my good pal Jonathan. Oh, how are you doing? I'm going to kill you pretty soon. Check out these guys. Are these your boy toys, Dio? I know you've always been pretty flamboyant. This guy's so annoying. You're going to die, Jonathan. I've always hated you. Since birth. You were always... Even though I didn't know you at birth. Such a prick to me. You always, I might have kicked your dog, but does it really matter?
He doesn't know it, but all this trying to seem sympathetic isn't really working. I mean, all the fangirls will probably still go over him, even me, even though I'm Jonathan Joestar, and I'm so beautiful, and the main character of part 1.
And you're gay, Jojo! Not that there's anything wrong with that. No, I'm not, Dio. And you're one to talk. Dyer just dies. Speedwagon gives Jonathan his sword, now called Luck and Pluck, but I'm just gonna call it Pluck, and he fuses it with Hamon. Oh hey, it's Straightso.
Straightso's my name. No mercy.
Jonathan and Dio begin to fight. Jonathan slices Dio's arm off and slices through his body from the top down. Though Dio freezes Jonathan and says he'll turn him to his side. Oh, but Jonathan hits it with a
Overdrive! No! You are but a mere monkey, Jojo!
Then Dio uses his laser eyes and dies. This is one of my favorite episodes of the whole part. I really do love this one. It has one of my favorite fights, Jonathan versus Dio, and it's great. Honestly, I don't think there are any real downsides to it outside of maybe the English dub version existing, but I don't know why Straightso and Tom Petty's voices were just not it in this episode. Maybe I should stop watching dub, but at least for part 1 and 2 because they're crappy, fake British accents. And I'm ranting, whatever. Anyways, this episode is going to be going in A tier. We open up this episode with Dio free fallen.
Wang Chan, the minor character from episode 3, really likes Dio or something, so, yeah, we'll see him later. And Speedwagon smashes the stone mask. Jonathan and Irina finally get married and travel to the Americas. The ship they're going on sets sail and everyone says goodbye. And we see a chest that some buff guys are carrying around. It's really sweet on the ship. Irina and Jonathan eat dinner, Jonathan drinking wine with her. And after she takes a sip, we see Wang Chan, who is playing the piano. And Jonathan says that Dio is alive, tells Irina to go away, for this drunk guy looks into this chest that happens to be unlocked. And then, Dio says he's going to take Jonathan's body, the only man he respects. Dio pierces Jonathan's neck as the ship begins to break, sending Jonathan into a nearby pillar. Jonathan insists that Irina should go because, the ship's burning. Irina takes a kid and Jonathan dies holding his adoptive brother's head in his arms as the ship explodes. The last thing we see of the part is Irina getting out of the chest with a child in her arms. The episode ends with the narrator saying that this was just the beginning of a new,
bizarre adventure.
I personally think this is a perfect ending that this part could have possibly had. It's an emotional and bittersweet ending to what most consider a subpar part of JoJo's. Personally, I love this part, but overall I'm going to have to put this final episode in the A tier.
And here is the final ranking for all of part 1. In the A tier, we have episode 1, 9, 8, and 4. And in the B tier, we have 3, 2, 5, 6, and 7. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you all enjoyed. I enjoyed making it for the most part. I really hope I can get Battle Tendency done, and then Stardust Crusaders, and then Diamond is Unbreakable, then Golden Wind, Stone Ocean, as fast as I can to get it out to you guys. I know the parts after part 2 are definitely going to be longer videos. 1 and 2, they're going to take a lot longer to come out. I'm currently about halfway done through scripting Stardust Crusaders, so yeah. With all that said, I will see you guys in the next video. Hope maybe the next JoJo video if I upload part 2 after this one, but that probably won't happen. I've been working on this video for a really long time. I'll see you guys. Peace out. And